looking for adventure and whatever comes our way.
All right, all right. You guys been asking for a while for Ryder McConville to come on. I was nervous to ask him. It took me about 6 months, but I finally got it. He was kind enough to come on. Dude, a great name. You got to tell a story about your name, man. What your dad said. That was such a just a great tale. Just say it quick, man, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad, well, the first joke he always would say is like we were between Ryder and U-Haul because the truck company. And then he tells everyone now that my middle name's Hard, Ryder Hard.
That's a great one. That's a
Yeah.
great one. That's a great one. So I thank you for coming on, brother. I got all these notes, man. I've been studying because the draft thing is I'm okay at it, but I don't watch college. You watch college?
Yeah. I mean, I actually go to the University of Tennessee games, all the home games for work,
Um,
so I get to watch all those games live. And then, but yeah, I don't watch as much during. I definitely watch, but it's more so after the season when I get really into watching.
man, you know your stuff. I went through all your videos, man. Got a whole bunch of videos. Anybody wants to know about some really good players out there? Check out his videos. He does a great job. Now I was even saying to him, like, when I do my editing, I do film studies. It's like a very laborious process. I say it and I screw it up. And he's telling me now that he just lets the film run. And most of the time, he just goes straight through without a break, man. And it's really good. And I think that's the thing, too, that I like about you. I think, I look for people that have like traits that I want. And I see them and I'm like, oh, man, can I grab some of that? I think you're very studious, intelligent. You're very calm and intellectual, and I think that plays out in your film study. Because I get tongue tied, I get all excited, and so I think that's a really great attribute. It is so difficult. Anybody doesn't know it. It's hard to edit all this guy puts so much work into it to edit the film up, to find the film, to put it up there with this little thing. He's got a mouse thing. I can't do that. Can't do two things at once. And then then to talk through it, but to go through straight through on one try, even if it's like most of the time, is very, very good. So without much further ado, I'm not going to do too much talking. I got three bats in my living room. My kids are going to be freaking out soon, and I want to hear mostly what you've got to say, because my view is hear me yapping all the time. So what's your process as far as how do you go and put together the film? How do you find the players that you want to choose? What's your prototypes for different position groups? We're going to try to stick with DI today, tight end, and you'd be surprised, offensive line. So just help us out. See what's in the mind of Ryder.
Yeah, so I think first when it's like just finding the players I want to watch, that's pretty simple. I usually just go through like other people's like prospect rankings, and I kind of just like try to go by position first. I like to
Mhm.
watch like one position at a time because there's different prototypes in like each group, you know. And I think one of the biggest things is having like for me, I'm always like kind of looking at with Dolphins in mind. So
Yeah.
like if you're just watching players, like I have my preferences, but I'm trying to like, when I'm doing it a lot for the Dolphins, trying to look for like fit is so important. A lot of guys don't end up working at the next level purely
Mhm.
just because they don't fit the system. Um, so I think that's always a big thing. And then when it comes to like scouting, each position group sort of has like different traits they look for, and then like there's critical factors for each like position. Like when I was like I did some stuff with like SIS, which is Sports Info Solutions. Like for tackle, they have these different traits to break down, but the critical factors usually it's like three. It's like there's reactive athleticism, anchor play strength, and body control. Those are like the three main ones. If
Yeah.
you're like below average in any of those, then they're not going to like you, even if you are good in like other areas. Um, I've always been a person that really values like processing. Like I like really smart players.
Mhm.
Um, necessarily, like I've always been someone that's been like a high fan of like high floor players, guys that are just like uh I want them to be athletic, a certain level of athletic, but I like guys that are like scrappy, instinctive, even if they're not the biggest. Like like
Happy. I like that.
yeah, yeah. Like when I played like in high school, I was a safety, like DB.
Mhm.
And I was never the biggest person on the field, but like I led my team in tackles. I've always liked watching guys that are like maybe a little undersized too, but Yeah, it sort of just depends on like positions and sort of the process with that. But I like really like guys that can move, athletic, toughness, always very important. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just so funny too, because like I think we all kind of agree that Richie Incognito is one of the best players. And I was watching Gruden talk about him. I don't know when it was, and he said this guy was a beast, but he was super smart too.
Yeah.
And he was an excellent athlete. And you can't you have to have certain levels of intelligence. You have to have, and it can be a little bit less depending on how awesome your athletics are, but you have to be able to move, especially in today's game. You have to have some physicality, and you definitely, you have to have some processing intelligence. So those are definitely three cores. For me, it's ability to handle power. That's if you can't handle power, even at an average level, that's like one of my keys, but all those other ones are definitely in there as well. So, so when you do your film, how do you, because I've watched your film, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to look at the good stuff. Sometimes we're going to balance it. How do you balance when you're laying out, you're dispersing those traits, the negatives and the positives? You try to keep 50-50, you're trying to keep 70-30. What do how do you go about that? Like, how do you emphasize the positives and the negatives?
Well, typically, if I'm making like a video on like a player I really like, then I'll definitely lean towards the positive because that's just what
Mhm.
I saw on film. Like it's going to be
Yeah,
mostly
yeah.
positive. But like if there's like a clear weakness of a player that they have, and I still like them, then I got to put it like at least in a few plays that I think like show that weakness clearly.
That's good.
Um,
Yeah,
or if the video is just on something specific, it might be all positive. If it's just on like one specific trait, and then I'll just show that specific trait.
that's
But it
good.
sort of depends on the video.
So, in all your years, what do you think's your best call? Like, what that you got really right ahead of the curve? Is anybody you got in your
I
mind that
mean,
you're like,
I would say, I mean, there's a few, especially in like,
oh,
I
he's
mean, this little.
flexing now. There's a few
No,
with your
there's one where
show on, right?
I'll always say I'll say who I got wrong too. I got Josh Allen wrong for sure. I was not a fan of Josh Allen coming
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
in.
That was easy
Yeah,
though. It's hard because
that he was a tough one. But the one this one just sounds crazy, but I was like super high on Patrick Mahomes, like when he was still considered like a second round guy at Texas
he's pretty
Tech.
good, right?
Yeah, he's pretty good. I just remember saying like, I remember telling my dad even before I was like, because I was 2017, so I wasn't like making videos or anything. I just remember telling my dad because I watched films. Just being like, "Oh, that should go top 5," which he didn't even end up going top 5. He went top 10. I would say Mahomes, like Terry McLaurin. I was super high on Terry. He went 3rd round. Had him as a 1st rounder.
He's
Same with
really
like
good.
yeah, like Alvin Kamara because he didn't. He was when he was at Tennessee. He didn't play that much. Like he was a backup. I just remember watching it, like even just watching like highlights. And I'm like one play. I'm like, this guy's ridiculous. But he was like a rotational guy.
Yeah, well, you were watching the games then too, because you said you in Tennessee. You were watching them in your local.
No, yeah, when I just moved to Tennessee just like 3 years ago now, so that this is
Okay.
more new, but that was just like watching live.
All right. Cool. Cool. So, look, we could just sit there and talk about the Dolphin situation. It's so weird. It's so precarious. We even hearing now Tehran talking about. It looks like he's coming back. We're hearing talk about linebacker being a key that they're looking for, and it could be in the first round. What do you assess the Dolphins situation? It doesn't have to go too long. And then what do you think they're going to do in this draft? And what would be your vision? Does it match, you think?
Yeah, so one, I think in the draft, I don't know if they're necessarily gonna, because I do think just going based on what they've done in the past, I think they're a best player available type team, but they'll take best player available at like usually premium positions early. They don't always go for the non-premium, so usually it's like either corner, edge, tackle. Like usually they target the premiums early.
Yeah.
I think they could potentially change that this year. I think that's something just from like listening to the interviews. I think that they've talked about like going after certain other stuff, like a wide tight end, guards, uh, potentially early on. I don't know, maybe not guard. I think they could take a tackle first round that has guard like ability. He could play guard
Mhm.
year 1, year
Like
2, and
Banks
just
or
move to
something.
tackle. Like Banks, Membo, Campbell. I think all those guys can play tackle and guard.
Yeah, watch your videos, man. I wrote it down over here.
Yeah, I think those guys could play tackle and guard, and that's like a position where they could take guard early. I don't know if they'll take a pure guard in the first round. I think that would be more like a second, third.
Is there any? I heard some people. It's going back and forth. Some people, half a split. They say they don't think there's any first round real pure guards. Do you agree with that?
I think this class is very interesting because I only have like about 10 to 12 first round grades. And I think a lot of people are in that range. And usually you have about like 15 to 20 in most draft classes. So I think this class is actually pretty stacked in like that 20 to 70-ish range. Like a lot
That's
of the
good for
players
us.
are they're really even across the board. So the Dolphins might even be out technically they could be out of first round graded players by the time they pick.
Oh,
But
no,
sometimes
that's
like
not bad.
quarterbacks
That's
go.
bad. Then it's bad.
Yeah.
Wrong,
Well,
Kurt.
like
Wrong.
sometimes, I wouldn't be surprised if they have like 1 or 2 left, just because like sometimes quarterbacks get pushed up. I think teams disagree on players. Someone
Mhm.
else might go, but I think Booker, who's probably the highest graded pure guard for me, would be technically rated in like the 20s somewhere. So technically, I think he'll go in the first round, but he'll be like a second round graded player for me.
Yeah. But it's so weird because last year I loved Sweat. I thought he'd go in the first round. And I want him desperately. But the DWI pushed him back into the second round, like 12 or something like that. And he played like a so you never really know. What do you think that their process of grabbing these premium positions? Do you think that's do you agree with that? Is that would be that if you were the GM of the Dolphins and you do better than Greer anyway, would you think that's the right process?
I don't mind the process of taking premium positions, but I just feel like there's always exceptions to like you
Mhm.
should always have exceptions to the rules. Like if you're in a class, it's like, okay, this safety is clearly better than the edge or whatever, when you're picking, then I would
Mhm.
lean towards taking the safety, even though it's not a premium position. But always think there should be exceptions to the rules, which
Scott, yeah, I agree. I understand it. I just kind of feel like Chris Greer stacks receivers and edge players, and I think he goes to the extreme. It's like this weird obsession.
if there's any year not to go premium position, I think it's this one. Just
Why?
because
Why you?
I think if you look at the Dolphins like strengths and weaknesses, the ones like I don't want to say like I mean, I think they could add at any position this year, but the ones that are like, there's must-haves, all the must-have positions are like the non-premiums. All the ones where they're kind of like they could be good, like they could be fine at tackle, receiver, corner, edge. They probably should add to those positions, but like they don't need to add premium if they really didn't want.
What do you think is going to fall to us? I mean, like, do you think you said we think we might be out of the range of those key players? I mean, obviously, I'd want to trade back. That's what I would love to do. There's a couple guys. I mean, there's a couple guys I really, really like, but I think that we need so much. In one hand, we're told that the Dolphins are in this must-win situation. I don't think so. I think Greer's got like a very long leash. I don't know about McDaniel, but how do this team win now, and then also build right? It's kind of because there's a lot of holes. I think we got a lot of holes.
Mhm.
Do you think Greer's actually going to do the right thing, or do you think he's going to try to do the desperate thing? And who do you think that would be
I
there?
Yeah. I hope he doesn't get desperate. And I don't think, I'm not the biggest Greer fan, but I don't think he's necessarily get desperate guy. Like, I mean, he's done it before, but nothing too like majorly desperate. I hope they don't like trade for like the Miles Garrett's and stuff like that. They're just not in a position.
Oh, I don't. He was not. He wants to
Yeah,
go to
he's not.
a functional franchise. Why is he coming here?
Yeah, we don't have the picks for that, or like we have too many. We need to build the core of our roster.
Yes, yes. And what do you? So you obviously think your offensive line. Beyond your offensive line? What do you think the keys for us?
I think just as important as guard is a really solid wide tight end. I think you see that value that like Kittle has in
Mhm.
San Francisco. It's very similar systems. That's why I'm really high on Tyler Warren,
Yeah.
like in this class. And like I think if he was there at 13, it's a decent chance he's best player available. And I think that's what the Dolphins are going for. I just don't know if they would take tight end at 13. I just think he would fix a lot of problems because
Yeah.
uh,
Could you imagine
he
him and
brings
Sanu?
yeah, especially because him and Jonnu, great duo, but they play they're both tight ends, but they play different positions.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
would bring that physicality. You could even go like under center with him. Like he takes direct snaps if you want to do like tush push with a tight end instead of a quarterback, which some teams are doing. Yeah, he can block in line. He can be also receiver. He just kind of like goes all around and makes
Now, I so speak of quickly. I'm off track because like my brain's fried. I saw you do a little thing on Mason Taylor and Jackson House.
I think it's Haas, but I'm not
House, yeah.
100% sure on everyone's
Yeah.
names.
I can't pronounce it. I don't pronounce his name right. But I like the Jackson guy in the late rounds, in the fourth rounds. I'd love to get a nice. If we can't get one of those guys, the Taylor guy kind of reminds me of Kraft that Green Bay drafted. I definitely think we need
Mhm.
tight ends. I think tight end is a major piece. I like John, but he can't block. So, but do you think that Warrens could fall to us at 13?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think for combine will be huge for him because he's a very big individual, but I think his athleticism is being underrated right now. Just because sometimes when you're like that big, long, it almost looks like you're lumbering a bit. I think
Yeah.
he'll test better than people think, which could push him up in the draft. But yeah, I think the Dolphins, if they don't come away with a tight end in this class, they're doing it wrong because this is one of the best tight end classes I've seen in a long time. Like, and I think you want to go for a wide. I wouldn't even be mad if they took two. Like, if they took a wide tight end early on, and then day three. To me, day three is just you take best player available. It doesn't even matter if they're the exact like fit you're looking for. Like, you just go after guys who are you think are could potentially make a difference for you because day three is such a crapshoot, anyways.
Now that House dude, I'm really intrigued. You got to go check out his video on this guy is I mean, he doesn't look like he used to, I didn't see you put any catching in there. So I guess he's just a pure blocker. Does he
Yeah,
have any receiving skills?
I think he could be like a tight end if you want to be like for receiving. He could be someone that just like if it's zone, find a soft spot in like the 5 yard range.
Smythe.
Yeah, like Smythe, but maybe even more physical after the catch. Um, maybe
But
not
he could
as
block.
like yeah, he could definitely block. I don't even really care if he does the blocking stuff. He's
He
almost
looks
like
so
a
good.
6'0" lineman out there for Georgia Tech. He's a good player. And honestly, I've seen blocking tight ends get pushed up farther in the draft. Like I remember when like
You
last
sent
year
us
was
sent your video.
yeah, I did say that because I you watch the film and you're usually okay, he just blocks, but he's a very good blocker. They're like day three, but then last year Tip Ryman, he was I think Illinois. He went third round to the Cardinals. Like the year or two before that, like Luke Schoonmaker, the Michigan tight end, went second round, and he wasn't even good. He went second round. So sometimes
Wow.
these blocking tight ends might go earlier. I do think the thing that you have going for for him to fall to the fourth, is just the tight end class is way better than usual. So some of those guys could.
Yeah, I think that this season has fallen so perfectly to reveal if Greer is totally insane. You need offensive linemen, and there's a ton. And going through some of your videos and stuff, and reading some all this stuff, you can see there's legitimately like a deep offensive line. There's even some guys in the DI, I think that I guess we'll talk about. But and tight end, we should definitely, for me, Curtis his little thing. I want two offensive linemen in the first four rounds. I want a tight end, and I would love to get a DI. I don't know. I don't think unless we get the DI in the first round. I like that guy. Was his name Grant? Yeah,
Right, yeah,
yeah.
Michigan.
I feel like Ahab with the Dolphins. I love Wilfork. We didn't get him. We passed on Nagata, Vita Vea, Lawrence. I'd love to get that. I don't think we could take him at 13, but that's why I'd like to trade back. But those are my four spots. We need to get physical. Somebody had a great comment, like in the comments, and they were saying we've been building South Beach, but we need to start building Miami Dade. And I just think that
Yeah,
it's amazing that our greatest success um, was during the 70s. And the talent cycles of the offense is kind of saying that 70s build is way better build style now than the 80s Marino style that we've kind of built on. So I just think we got to get physical, man. We've got to get physical. We got to get travel on the road. So Who do you think is actually going to fall to us? And I know it's a long way away. Just give me 2 or 3 players that you think that, I think Banks might be there, although some people saying he might go to the Bears. 2 or 3 guys you think that
I
legitimately
think
might.
Banks. I actually think Banks. If right now, from what I've just like seen from people and like what scouts have said, like from people who have sources, it seems like Banks out of the O line. It seems like the one that's likely to fall to 13. I wouldn't even be surprised if we didn't take him and he goes even later than expected. Um, he's a guy I like. I don't love him. I think
Yeah,
I really value balance as a in offensive lineman. I think balance is like the most important athletic trait just across the board.
mm,
He's a guy that ends up on the ground a little too often. I like his athleticism. I like, his physicality. I just think and I think it could be even better at guard, just, maybe not having go out in space too often because sometimes he plays too far over the top.
yeah.
Um at tackle. But I think honestly I wouldn't be surprised of a decent amount because I think Simmons, the Ohio State lineman, is technically the best, but he had a big knee injury. So that might drop him.
We love that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a big knee injury, so I don't know where he's gonna go, but, like, I think Membo, Campbell, they'll all be there on the O-line. I think every D lineman will be on the board besides Mason Graham, uh, which they'll be gone. But
Yeah,
realistically, like,
you did a thing on Membo, and I liked what I saw. You said he was more a tackle, but he was more than a guard, and he had a big lower body. I kind of liked him. I kind of like Membo. I'm still studying it out. I'm just shooting. So
yeah, he was a little lower in the process, like, a couple months ago, but, like, from what I've seen from, like, people, like I think it was, like, Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, some of the, like, mocks they've done, like, they even had Membo going before the Dolphins even picked. So it seems like teams are catching up on him, and I think he's one like, he fits outside zone scheme really well, and he's the one that I like because he plays right tackle. I think he can come and play right guard, I mean, either guard spot really, but, like, when Jackson went down last year, that really hurt the run game, Austin Jackson. So, like, if we needed to bump someone to right tackle because right tackle is more important just in the system than guard, he could bump out to tackle if they really needed him to, if Jackson
yeah,
had an injury.
um, I hate to disagree. I'm not big on Jackson. I think my take is Jackson. It kind of like coincided with he had some easy teams. I don't think he's a good run block. I'm not really big on him. I definitely think he's better than Lamb. I would love. Do you like Jackson? I want to move off him. Man. I'm not a big Jackson fan. I'm not saying I'm
I
right.
think no, I think Jackson is really helped by the Dolphins' offensive line. I think is lucky to play in McDaniel's scheme because if especially in pass protection, I think the
I
Dolphins
do
would
not like
look
that.
their O-line would look so much worse if they were like true pass setting all the time, but they rarely do that. So like I think Jackson and like Paul, a lot of them struggle in pass protection, but like they're protected because we do a lot of slide protections, we do a lot of quick jump setting. Tua gets rid of the ball real quick. So it's like we're typically not like but I think the big thing they have going is they're athletic and they can get some movement if they get out in space.
Yeah.
But I think Jackson is a good run blocker for what the Dolphins do.
Now I watched another video of yours, and you actually mentioned that you talked about the Dolphins' lack of true pass sets, and I think that's it's interesting because what's your take on that? Why? And obviously, that's their thought process, philosophy. I think it's limiting. Do you think that the lack of true pass sets is their philosophy, or are they trying to mask something? And do you
I
think
think
they
it's
could
a
be
bit.
successful with that style?
I think it's a bit of both because it's something they've always done, but they did it less, like the less when they had the fully healthy O line at the beginning of 2023. I think when they were
Mhm.
doing like the Broncos game, I think was like the only time they were all five fully healthy. At the start of that season, they weren't doing as much like they were still like they still would do it more than anyone. Like they would still do all the like jump setting, but there was times they would do true pass sets, and it does limit you in a certain way. Like there's certain concepts that I think will limit you on, but also I just think it kind of plays to the strengths of a lot of your players. So um, I think it's a give or take thing. I think the real thing is like if the Dolphins can figure out the running game,
Yeah.
that's when it opens everything else
Oh,
up.
yeah, I agree.
Because then it slows down just the defense by itself because they have to, maybe hesitate an extra half second, which slows people down. and then I think I think if you can combine like the 2023 offense, like the big thing in 2023 is they were to push the ball down the field and they had like the highest yards per carry, I think, at least for a while that year. But they didn't have anything they could work underneath, and teams just started taking away the deep stuff. I think if you
Mhm.
combine 2023 with the Jonnu Smith thing, because this last year Jonnu was just eating underneath, but they were unable to
Oh
push
yeah,
the ball down the field or run the ball. So I think you have to
yeah,
combine all those things for that to be successful. That's why you need a guard, some wide tight ends that can block, maybe even in a bigger body receiver somewhere added in.
yeah. I think the big bodies. For me, it's definitely the run game. It's I noticed back in 2021 we played the Titans. They sat in nickel all day. It was a rainy day. We'd come out in 12 personnel, and once in a while you get a pop run for a first, and then all of a sudden you run it again. Maybe you get a first down, and then you run it again, and all of a sudden be a negative play, and then you all schedule. We couldn't really dominate these light boxes, high leverage linebackers. And I think this year was utter disrespect. They just played. They basically said we don't believe in you can run inside at all. So I totally agree on that. I am with you 1,050%. So another thing you had talked about, you had another podcast about Jalen Wright. He's going to have a breakout year this year. And I agreed. If you get yourself that tight end, if you get yourself some offensive linemen, this kid is a good player, but he's not fast enough to get to the edges, and he's a little stiff to cut back. We don't even have cutback lanes anyway. So I definitely think if we could just get this offensive line right, just a little bit, and give him a little yards before contact to make some holes and just shoot, I think he would do well. You like Jalen Wright? Like, 'cause I see a lot of some of my viewers like, this guy's good. He's a bust. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
I think people give up on players too quickly. Like we saw it with Chop. I saw people calling him a bust after like 3 games, and
That was crazy.
I'm like, Chop was always a player that was going to take a little bit of time anyways, and he even developed
Mhm.
faster than expected. But he had a
Yeah.
very like on if you watch his college film, like he was still learning how to play the position, but he still had a way to win and create disruption. He just started to learn the nuances. He got used to the timing, the speed of the game, and he went over. I think the Dolphins running backs, like I don't like. I think they should add a guy that maybe is a good short yardage back to that room. Move on from probably the veterans potentially, but like running backs position, maybe you add a day 3 back because running backs end up falling deeper than they should. Someone that's good in short yardage situations, because that's a big what I think area they've struggled in. They just suck on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, but that can also just be fixed by better O line and tight end play.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you think that's been restricting. You think that's been restricting McDaniel?
Yes, in a way, because I've seen people get like really mad at McDaniel on the short yardage stuff whenever we would not run it down the middle, which I do think they should have ran it down the middle more. But even when they did that, it didn't work. So it was like he tried everything. Like he
Yeah.
tried throwing it, he tried a jet sweep, he tried running it down the middle. Nothing really worked, except like maybe earlier in the season when they were a little more healthy on the O line, when they ran it down the middle. And then I think just getting a little more because like just look at the difference. That's why I think Wright can break out. Is like just look at the difference from Achan. Like Achan's like had a good year this year, but he didn't. His rushing numbers went way down.
Way down.
The year before, when they had better run blocking, with a at least not a great offensive line, but a better offensive line.
Yep.
Achan was like leading the league in yards per carry.
Yep. And well, this year he led in receiving yards, right? And
Yeah.
that guy's
That's how they
unbelievable.
made up for it. Basically, like, people complained about the screens, which I hated all the screens we called, but, like, we had to because every rush felt like a waste of a down because
Yep.
like, we couldn't gain anything, and they were
Yep.
playing too high, so they're like, "Okay, our screen game is our run game."
Yeah, and the thing too is if you watch from the Denver game last year to now, the edges started going out wider because they started banding the middle more, and those edges then would be able to get to those edges, but the linebackers were dropping deeper, and when they were sitting at 5 yards, it's a free run to the edges and to take away that pocket post. So it was really like it was an ambush. Every time we try to run the football, it was an ambush, and when we try to run inside, there just was no real movement. I thought sometimes Tehran and Jones did some good stuff, but just not enough. And so, yeah, I think I'm not a big Brewer guy, but I think if he gets some really big, talented guards next to him, you can get him free a little bit more. And you could do once you run inside and they fear that and they start calling run blitzes and creeping those linebackers, I think that we could have a hot offense, you know?
That's why I do think they're going to try to get bigger at guard because if you look at all the other Shanahan type teams like the Rams, the Packers, the
Mhm.
Niners, all of them, they've technically like, if they've gotten bigger at guard over the years, like the ones that have been there for a while, coaches. So I think via
Mhm.
bigger guards, I like Burr because I mean I think you just need that super athlete at center. It's like for this team, it's like the perfect fit. That's why when like Titans fans were telling me like he was horrible, I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, he had some pass protection stuff, but I'm like, I'm not worried about that with Miami. Like they just are jump setting people. So
Yeah, my only concern, I the guy's a super talent, but he's not able to move guys as much as, and sometimes he gets clogged up, and especially in the red zone. But if you flank him with the right guards, I think you can enhance that, you know. But I think it was Al from 3 yards per carry is like, yeah, I'll help you out with Brewer. He was flanked by Jones and Hickenberg. That's like tying an anchor around you. So I hope the guy, because I think he's a good guy. I think he's a talented guy. So, but he's going to be key because he's locked in, and we've got to be able to move the interior. So I totally 100% agree on that. So, who's a round two guy, round three guy that you think that's out there in the offensive line that we should really be looking out for? I saw you got the
yeah,
Marcus McBow guy too at center, but I don't think he'll fit us because we got a center.
yeah, he's one that I actually don't know where he's gonna play because his skill set's like very interesting because he's not necessarily long enough to play tackle, and then he might be a little too light to play guard. But he's
Yeah.
just super athletic and he's like really nuanced. Like he has like the way he beats people is so like that's why I think he might just end up playing tackle because he's athletic and nuanced. But I think he'd also play center. But I think teams have played him at guard, so we'll see what that happens with him. But I
How
like
tall is he?
um
Because I know Zach
I don't have
Tom
it
is
off the top of my
small.
head.
He's like only like 310, 305. And
Yeah.
he's pretty good. Sometimes he gets bull rushed, but he's a guy I liked a lot, and he's playing the
Yeah, I
tackle.
can look up the size.
I just thought you might know if that, because he had me
He's
interested. That
listed at
video of yours had me interested. I was like, he's a little
he's listed
small.
at like yeah, 6'5", 300, 305. About that.
That helps though, having the length, because Tom doesn't have the length. I think he's only like 6'3" or something like that. That's an interesting
But
character. So
he definitely has Zach Tom vibes.
yeah, I like Zach Tom. Does he have the same kind of super measurables? Is he the same kind of athlete?
He's a very good athlete. At least on film. I don't know how he'll test, but I think he should test well, at least from what I've seen on film. Um, but for us, some other guards, I think if Donovan Jackson falls, the Ohio
That's another guy. No, he had Donovan.
yeah,
You did a nice video on him, dude. It was a good video.
yeah,
Oh, wait, hold on.
someone,
Listen, no, wait. I gotta took notes. Trust. He's good at twisting stunts. He has some run blocking issues, but he's good at the OZ, and he recovers from oversetting. That was good. That was a good one. You guys got to check that one out. Check the Donovan Jackson one out. You had this really good clip where he was leaning over. Sometimes he oversets, but look at him recover. That was a great video, dude. I enjoyed that one.
recovery is big for O-line because it's never going to go perfectly at any position. So, like, O-line and DB, surprisingly, like, if you think O-line and DB have a lot in common, and then edge and receiver have a lot in common with, like,
Never thought of that.
how they battle back and forth. So, I look actually for similar traits. Obviously, they're different physicalities,
Yeah.
like the athleticism, the way they mirror match, it's all kind of similar.
I'll say that again. Say that comparison again. I was thinking about it and I forgot about it. Say it again.
Yeah, so, like, offensive line is very similar to, like tackle is I kind of see, like, corners because they're similar, like, how they match up, like, edge versus tackle for, like, a
Mhm.
receiver versus corner. They have different way it's, like, almost a similar chess match that they're having when it comes down to, like, how the angles they're attacking, the fluidity to mirror and
That's
match.
cool stuff, dude. I like that. I don't think about that. That's a good one.
Yeah, and
So
then,
you like Donovan Jackson though? You like him a ton?
yeah, I actually think I'm saying round 2, but he's one that could like, I have a round 2 grade on him, but he's one of the guys that I could also see just going somewhere in round 1 towards the end because those guys are gonna get pushed up. Um,
Yeah, I think there's going to be a run on all. I think offensive linemen are becoming a hot premium. People are really. I think there's a deep draft, but I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for offensive linemen.
He's also one that I think could play tackle at the next level as well. Like, not all of these guys who play tackle, like Gray Zabel, who I like a lot. He'll be an interior guy, but he played tackle at North Dakota State.
Yeah.
I like him as well. He'll
He had
probably
a
go
great,
J2
he had
somewhere.
he's the guy who had the great
Senior.
Senior Bowl. Practice. You said so. Zabel, where do you think he falls? Round 1, 2?
I don't think he'll work up to round 1. I'm gonna guess round 2, or day 2 somewhere, but I'm gonna guess round 2 with how good the Senior Bowl went.
We need some guys to drop a little bit. I'm hoping for something. We
I
really need some.
I think there will be a at least a decent draftable guard at the second round pick. And last year even some guards fell to the third round that I feel like were a little unexpected. Um, so we'll see how it plays out. I think the O-line class is maybe not the most top heavy, but there's some decent players there. I think really the deepest ones are tight ends, uh, like top heavy and deep is tight end, D line, and then even like the edge group is really good, which isn't like a huge need for the Dolphins, but it's always good to find a nice edge, later on.
You think we keep Chop or move off him?
Chubb?
Not Chubb. Sorry, yeah, Chubb.
Yeah, yeah, sounds similar.
It's hallucinate. It happens.
Yeah, I'm I lean towards they probably like June 1st cut. I think there's a chance they restructure though. But I mean, if they restructure, you really don't need to worry about edge at all,
Yeah.
probably. Because then you have three guys that can make a difference, or they're difference makers. You got to hope they stay healthy, but it's not a position you would need to necessarily worry about. But
Do you
which,
think do you think DI is important for us this year?
uh, yeah, because last year, if you look at the interior with what they did with the interior D line was they were actually in the same position last year with Sealer. They just had Sealer basically under contract and no one
Yeah.
else. Or this, but and then it ended up working out. So I think it's probably the position out of all of them, like the ones that they really need bodies. Like they have no one at safety right now, no one at D
Yeah.
line, no one at guard. Um, and there's some other positions where they need one at least one linebacker. Um, it's probably the position out of those that I'm least worried about because it worked out last year. And I think if there's one position Weaver can scheme, like if they need to scheme help, like he schemed a lot of help for the D line with a lot of the twists and stunts. And I think they might just re-sign a lot of those guys cheap to be like depth. And then the class is good enough to where like if you don't get Calais back, you can get a starter level D line on day 2 somewhere because the class is
Who do you
really
think? Who do you think that who's your day 2 guys?
yeah. So I really like. Let's see. I mean, a lot of these guys might even sneak into round 1, but I really like Alfred Collins, the Texas D line. Uh, he's like a one tech, really plays the run very well. But he has like there's some things he needs to work on. I think as a pass rusher, just like the feel and stuff of things. But he has like the athleticism and size. Like he's really like he's listed really big, but like you can tell like he fits into his weight really well.
I
Yeah,
didn't have him. I wrote a bunch of guys down, and he's not there.
yeah,
Ryder's telling me to write it down, so I'm writing it down. Collins, I'm doing that now.
Darius
How
Alexander.
big is he? What's his size? I got this fixation on these nose tackles, but I don't think we're
Yeah,
golful.
yeah.
How,
I let me say
how
I
don't sweat it.
no, it's quick. Look it up. I always forget to write it down just because I do a quick Google on it. But he's listed at 6'5", 320.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, so
I like that.
he's a big guy, and like even though he's tall, you don't necessarily always need tall interior D line, but like sometimes he plays a little high, which can get him in trouble. But like that's things that can be worked on.
Yeah, if he's playing, if he's playing like a 3 tech, it's look how tall Seal is. He's 6'6".
Yeah, yeah. That's what
It's
I mean.
once you get to that 0 that's really hard to be tall when you're 0.
I don't know if you've seen Dion Walker, but like he's the freakishly large one.
Oh yeah, 6'3", no 6'6", like 340 or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think at the Senior Bowl he was like 6'7" and like almost 350. But he's one that's almost like
Too big.
the really good stuff is like whoa, but the really bad stuff is like I'll let someone else take the shot. But I
Yeah,
really like Darius Alexander. He's just a good player.
I don't got him
Uh,
either.
Toledo. He was like a Senior Bowl standout. I think I just made a video on him. He's really good.
I definitely think so. We have was it first, second, third, and two fourths. Who?
Yes.
What are the position? What positions are you hoping we nail with those five picks?
So I'm hoping for a tight end. It can be in any of the rounds, honestly, because I think you can
Any-
get a solid one. Even first, like not all these would be first. Like guard, I think I'm kind of hoping for guard that they get a solid guy in free agency, like someone that can be a solid plus starter. They could potentially like
Yeah,
resign Robert Jones to be, but like I think if they resign Jones or Win, they should be depth. I'm fine with that, but I think you got to get a new starter for sure. And then I think day two, you hopefully get another like solid starting guard, and that could be like your potential starting O line. And then get some maybe depth pieces later on. Because I don't know if O line's going to be just from how I think the board's going to fall. I don't know if it's going to be the best spot. It's going to be BPA in the first round. But if it is, I'm down to take it there. So, but I think guard and tight end for sure. Uh, and we talked about linebacker. I know there's reports that they're interested in linebacker, right? Like I only
yeah,
like kind of saw it. I didn't read too much into it. But the
yeah. Jimbo's
linebacker
interesting.
class, it's not that strong. There's only like a few names I like. So like I don't if you don't get one of the top few, like I don't even think they would. I think every team's gonna have its weaknesses. If I had to guess which they position they would kind of ignore, my guess would be linebacker if they because free agency, I think they'll try to get like they might re-sign like Dotson to be like, depth guy, but then he might be
Yeah,
forced to start
he
and he
played pretty well. You did a
he
video
played
on him
solid.
too.
Yeah, I like Dotson. But I like Dotson as like the third linebacker. If you can upgrade.
Yeah,
I mean, there are some guys like Greenlaw in free agency. If you get a guy like what you got in Jordan Brooks' contract last year, which was not too
great.
expensive. Yeah, I love the Brooks sign. I think actually last year the Dolphins actually did a pretty good job in free agency with a lot of their signings. It was probably one
Yeah,
of the better signings they had. It's just they had too many needs at a lot of spots and they didn't fill every need.
yeah, yeah. I think that a lot of stuff got massaged over, and it was just underneath was rotting away. It was a lot of depth problems. I just don't. Before we, I get what's with I. Why did we keep Eichenberg all those years? What's your
Uh,
take on it? To me, it's crazy.
yeah, I mean, I I honestly I think the last season, the 2023 season, maybe was probably his best season, like, when it just, like, grading out, like, his comparatively, so maybe they thought he was gonna take a jump or something, I don't know. I don't like an Eichenberg style player because there's nothing to really like, I think he's an NFL level player, but, like, bottom of a roster NFL level player, like,
Yeah,
he shouldn't be starting. There's just, like, one, he doesn't have a calling card. That's what, like,
yeah,
my problem. Like, there's no, like with Brewer, even if you don't like the power, he's an insane
Under-
athlete.
yeah,
Liam, not an athlete, not
enough out.
powerful, not even a technician. Like, if you're not a guy that's super powerful or super athletic, you gotta be a technician.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was good at getting penalties, drawing penalties.
That actually is his calling card. He would start fights. He'd, like and I actually would laugh at it every time because I thought it was hilarious.
He did find something. He
Yeah,
did
I
find.
was like, "Okay, there you go, Liam."
Oh, man, I think it. I don't think we were going to have a lot of success last year, but I think if we just had a decent guard and not Liam, I think we could have had more success. I definitely thought there was issues, obviously, but that to me was just craziness. I don't think that we can actually achieve anything great this season as far as like going on the conference championship. For me, it's about setting the framework for a coherent build. And that's like setting the physicality, filling this team out, getting some good draft picks, even some nice free agents to fill this thing out. But am I wrong? Do you think that we could do more than that? Do you think we can even do that?
I think I don't think they'll go, they would have to, like, really have, like, an insane offseason to, like, I think go super far. I think they could do something that hasn't been done. I think if it's done right, they could win, like, a playoff game. And I think that's, like, kind of what you're looking for because it hasn't been done in a long
Well, that'd
time,
be
and
huge.
I think that's what saves, like, everyone's job, and I think I think they should at least realize the people in charge that like we need to get people that can contribute right away. Um, because they might not be here long term, but who knows what's going on within the building.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's a positive thing. Part of me is
It's not
like,
like
okay,
last year played out so, not greatly, but it wasn't like and it wasn't like it seemed where like when you watch the game, it just felt horrible. It felt like we were like worse than in like what did we finish 8-9? It
yeah,
wasn't like they were that many games off of making the playoffs. Like they were somehow still in it, and it's like if your quarterback stayed healthy, there's a decent chance you probably end up making the playoffs. You probably don't win anything,
yeah.
but it's not like you're that far off in that from that perspective. It's just I think they're missing the keys pieces like we talked about.
Well, anyway, brother, I appreciate your time. I don't want to hold you up too long.
Yeah.
It's been great, man. I think you do a great job, and I'm super impressed that you're able to go through that just right out the cuff. But I appreciate all your information. I had a lot more stuff to talk about. I could pick your brain. I really like some of the things that you said, especially I never thought about that cornerback and tackle, some similar skill sets. I'm gonna think about that. I think that's very interesting. So I appreciate everything. I know my viewers are going to appreciate it. Guys, check out Ryder. His stuff is really, really good. He's a good guy, smart guy, calm guy. And I think he does a great job. And I'm really grateful for you to be on here. So do your whole thing. I don't promote myself, but I love when people promote it. Where can we find Ryder? I know we can find Ryder, but I just
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
my pleasure.
You can find me just my name Ryder McConville on YouTube. So
And Twitter. You do the Twitter thing too.
yeah, a little bit on Twitter. I post sometimes on Twitter, mainly just post the videos there, but mostly just to see what everyone's talking about.
So yeah, Twitter thing's weird. I'm still trying to do it, man. It's like it's a whole other universe. Twitter.
Yeah.
So I'll keep going.
No, I was just saying
Sorry.
I try not to usually respond on Twitter just because I know people are just saying crazy stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah,
it
I know.
doesn't matter. Like I should just
It's such a
not
weird place,
respond.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it's not really like discourse. I don't know what it is. It's a weird place. It's a weird place.
Yeah, really
Anyway,
people are just getting their grievances outside. It's like,
yeah, it's venting, emotionalism. I don't know. But anyway, you do great work. Guys, definitely check out Ryder. He's awesome. Thank you again, Ryder. Everyone, be well. Ryder and Curtis say, go Fins. Curtis and Ryder out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.